Let's try something new today. Like a lot of people, when Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom came out, I became obsessed. And once I finished the game, I didn't want to leave the world yet. The creatures in the game are so unique and interesting, I thought it might be fun to try to crochet them, but there was just one problem. I couldn't find any crochet patterns for any of the creatures, at least at the time. I had to come up with my own patterns to create my little sand seal plushie here and my Keys plushie. It wasn't exactly easy to create these guys, but after I made them, I somehow still had the itch to make plushies. One of my new favorite YouTube channels, Complicated Knots, already had a YouTube series about making Pokemon, and I knew I could never live up to that. So I started looking for a more unique place to find creature inspiration. And what better place than my own books? For those of you who don't know, I do have a short story series, Tales of Mundane Magic. Volume 4 is out soon. Pre-order link is in the description below. And one of my favorite things to do in these stories is come up with cool, interesting, unique fantasy creatures for each of the stories. There's the singing dirt sprites, the body snatching slug creature, and the rain dog, the half reindeer, half dog. There are a ton more, and some of them I'm going to crochet for you. First off, I think we'll start with Ziggy, the ghost dog. Normally this is where I would read a description of Ziggy for you, except unlike a lot of the other creatures, he's not really unique in appearance besides being a ghost. He's just a fluffy white dog. I'm really excited to try crocheting texture onto his fur, but let's start with a sketch first. First of all, please forgive me. I'm not an artist. If this picture upsets you, then pretend this is what's there instead. Okay? Okay. I'm gonna be following a couple different patterns for various parts of this. The main one I'm going to use is this one, which is the back legs, the muzzle, and the front legs, and then the ears and tail I'm going to get from a second pattern. Also, all these patterns involve just like smooth crocheting of dog fur, and I'm going to be adding fluff following a tutorial that I'll link below. I am going to start with the head and body, and I should get some yarn for that. As you can see, I have a lot of yarn to choose from. This is yarn that I actually got for free from a craft store that was closing. I also have, this is very thin white that I think I got from the garage sale. This I bought. I think I'm going to use this just because I have a lot, and so I won't feel bad if I end up having to start over or anything. I've got my yarn, I've got my 5mm hook. It's time to get started. I will be crocheting this in the round like the pattern that I'm referencing says to do. I have some safety eyes somewhere, and I am going to try to do that fluffy texture. There's a part of me that wishes we were starting like from the muzzle and going backwards, because then I think I could do like smaller fluff there. But you know, this is an experiment. I have tons of white yarn. I can really have some fun experimenting with this. So let's get started. Really quick thing, I know I mentioned that I did buy a bunch of stitch counters in my first crochet video, and someone in the comments asked me to do a little like tutorial on how I use it. This is the magic circle with the 6 single crochet in it, and just to mark where I started because I'm about to start going around the round again, I just, in the first stitch of the last round, I lock that in. It stays locked. It's very easy to unlock. So I know when I arrive back at this one, I'm like back to the beginning of the circle, basically. It just really saves me the hassle of having to count how many stitches are in a round, especially when there's just a really nice pattern. I just realized that I should already be doing that textured fur. So we're actually gonna frog this. Here we go, back from the beginning again. So I've been working on the head of the ghost dog for a couple hours now. This is where I'm at. The texture is pretty perfect, but even though the inside is, I mean, I guess that's getting to a decently large size. My point is that because of the length of the fur, it's just getting really big, much bigger than I wanted. So I think I'm going to pull this out to like maybe row 4. Also, I forgot that I wanted to use this really sparkly, I guess I would call it like almost like tinsel. It's a thing that you can add to yarn yourself. You can also like buy yarn that like has this stuff like twisted in. I was gonna use that for all the fur, and if I was going to undo the entire thing, maybe I do that. Should I just undo the entire thing and just make it I think I'm gonna undo the entire thing. So this is called glitter thread, and I'm just going to be holding it while I crochet. I'm gonna start over. I've redone my work with the sparkles. We're already at the like middle. I went 10 stitches in, and I think this is where I'm going to put the dog eye. I bought some safety eyes from Amazon because one of the indie yarn shops I went to said that they didn't carry safety eyes and that they didn't know any that did. But then of course the one that I go to all the time, it turns out they do. Oops. Oh well, next time. Now I'm just going to place them and then I'll finish the round and eventually I will actually put the backs on. It just already looks really cute. Oh, okay. Here's where I am now. This is the little head for the dog. I think first I'm going to do the muzzle. I just did slip stitches here instead of the actual fur texture. I hope that'll make it easier for attaching later. And just to test it, I'm gonna do the muzzle now. Okay, so I don't think the muzzle is working. I think that the fur is too long. It's getting late. I tried a couple of things now, and I think I know what I'm going to try tomorrow. I've stopped using the glitter thread because it was just too much hassle. I was just experimenting. But at this point, I have this. So that's safety nose, I guess. I'm using a technique. It's actually from a complicated knots video. Go figure. The pattern that I worked with that starts with a magic circle and 6 single crochets in there. I think I'm probably going to bring that down to 4 to keep it a little smaller because right now it looks a little too bulky. I think I'm finally on the right track after making like 4 different muzzles. Good morning. I have finished the muzzle. I still think Ziggy is looking a little sheep-like, but I really think the ears will help with that. 2 things. First of all, how cute. How freaking cute. I attached the ear in between like the waves of fur. Also, I used the tail, like I used, the tail obviously to attach it. And then while I was inside the head, because I haven't stuffed the head yet, I pulled back what I'm gonna call the eyebrow around that eye. So I think like compared to this eye looks less angry. Oh my gosh, so cute. Amazing. Okay, body time. I'm sort of following a pattern on here-ish, just more for inspiration than anything. And they specifically mention at what is sort of the join between the head and the body, stitching the increases in and the single crochet in the front loop only. And I thought maybe that was some way of like accentuating the divot between the head and then the body. And I think I'm right because when you're not doing these, doing the front loop only does lift up this barrier. I'm gonna start doing first stitch in here too, but I just wanted to explain that in case you end up using this pattern to make your own cute little doggo. I've done a bit more with Ziggy today. His neck is a little bit loose, I guess. He's a bobblehead. I think he's turning out really cute and very sparkly. I think for the humps of the back legs, I'll do the same stitch thing that I did on his muzzle, and then for the actual feet I'll do the ears just normal single crochet. I'm very tired of doing this texture at this point, and I'm really tired of working with the tinsel glitter stuff, which is interesting because I thought this pattern would be the easiest. And I guess in terms of like parts I'm making, it's pretty easy and I'm able to sort of follow and adapt a lot of references, but the texture takes a while and the tinsel takes a while. It's nice knowing that I'll be going into some of the more complicated patterns, or what I expect to be complicated patterns, with this under my belt. Not feeling great this morning. Here's where the Ziggy plushie is. These are the hind legs, hind paws. Now I'm figuring out the front paw situation. I was searching through the various YouTube creators that make patterns, and once again, Complicated Knots is coming in clutch. She has a werewolf pattern, I guess, where the front arms kind of look like this, like, possibly a dog sitting on their hind legs, which I do think matches the front cover of Tales of Mundane Magic Volume 1. I did try a lot of front paws last night and I just found it very frustrating trying to get one to like go all the way to the ground. So I'm gonna try this. It's hard to see because I don't use pins, but I think that looks pretty cute, especially from the side. I thought for a second I was finished, but I am not finished because someone needs a tail. He stands okay. I did an okay job. If I was making this again, I probably wouldn't do any of the texture because his paws don't have texture and his ears don't have texture, and they still look good and fluffy. But you know what? I'm still really happy. He's still really cute. It's been a few days, and today I'm going to start working on the Figgle. And then here I will cut to the description of what the Figgle is. A Figgle was a small creature, limber as a rat with the soul of a cat and the size of a swollen sock, and it was one of the most annoying pests to get rid of. humanely at least. Figgles were magical and couldn't be seen with the naked eye. The only way to spy a Figgle was in a mirror. They had sensitive eyes and came out of hiding when the light was dim. If a room was empty, they might creep out at dusk to eat, but usually they waited until their home's occupant was safely asleep at dawn, and then they would eat their hair. They couldn't see it directly, but the Figgle's reflection shone true in the mirrors, its gray feathers in a ruffle and its large pointed nose snuffing the air. It also has ears and front paws and back paws, but there's not a good succinct description of that. Remember when I said that Ziggy's texture was going to be, you know, the hard thing about that, but then at least I wasn't going to have to deal with that for the rest of the creatures? I feel really stupid that I said that now, because the Figgle has feathers. You know, when you have a crocheted bird, you don't really need to do any sort of like special texture to make it obvious that it has feathers, because birds have feathers. You look at a crocheted plushie of a bird, and even if it's just normal crochet texture, like your brain still understands that's a bird that has feathers. But unfortunately, this thing is gonna kind of look like a rat. And so if I don't do some sort of way to signify that, no, it has feathers, I think people are gonna look at it and just think it has fur and it's just a big rat or a ferret or something. I have been worrying about this, so I've done some research and experimentation. First off, I just wanted to see, okay, can I crochet a bunch of individual feathers and just use that to decorate the outside? If I make like a base, can I just put feathers on top of it? Here's a crocheted feather. I mean, I do think it looks like a feather. It kind of looks like a leaf, but it's a feather, right? This is huge. This is massive. If I do like multiple feathers like this on the outside of the Figgle, it's going to end up bigger than the Ziggy plushie, which I don't want it. I want it at least about the same size, if not smaller. Then I looked up, I think I probably searched like crochet feather pattern texture, something like that, and the crocodile stitch came up. I was experimenting with that, seeing if I could make them different lengths and layer over each other, and I like this, but again, it's really big. Using what I learned from crocheting the Ziggy plushie and like working in front loops versus back loops, I came up with this test swatch. First of all, it's much smaller, which is obviously good. I'm feeling pretty good about this. And the question is, what color am I doing it? I did all my tests in white just because I had the white from doing the Ziggy plushie, and also because I have a ton of white yarn right now, so I didn't feel bad about using a bunch of it. In the book, the description is that the feathers are gray, but I figure I want to have a little bit more fun than that, and that, you know, a couple of the feathers could be gray, or maybe, you know, it's a magical creature and maybe they're all different colors, as in like different Figgles have different colors. Or maybe, you know, because you really only see the reflection, maybe that magic sort of messes up the color a little bit and actually they're more colorful. This is all just an excuse to use this new yarn that I got from Joann's, which is purple, yellow, and white gray-ish. And I know that's not super accurate, but I'm tired of just crocheting in white, so this is what we're doing. Cool, thanks. Like I've said, I can't really draw, although I'm pretty proud of this mouse. I did kind of look at a reference to try to figure it out. The more that I draw kind of what's sort of in my head, the more it kind of looks like a centaur though. Good morning. It's kind of a cold day. It's a little bit gray. So here's what I have so far of the Figgle. I was kind of following a mouse pattern that I found on Ravelry, and I put the eyes in. So I feel like I am locked in to this head shape, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. The nice thing about this very textured, like ruff around the collar, is that that will go around something else very easily. I think I'm going to pause here, put in a stitch counter to save my spot, and then start making like a tube. I think that might work, and then I can just either connect the two because of the texture, or I can just slip and then sew the head onto the body. I think that'll make me feel better. And you might be wondering how I feel about the color choice, and that's my favorite part of this so far. Hey from the couch again. This is just where my TV is, and whenever I'm crocheting I am watching TV, so it makes the most sense to these little vlogs from here. Here's where we are with the Figgle body. I know it kind of looks like dragon scales, but I also think it looks like feathers. I love the different patches that we're getting of different colors. I think it's really fun. My idea right now is that this is going to be the back of the Figgle, this is going to be the front, and we're going to get a shape that's kind of like this, and then maybe kind of like this. I'm having one of those moments where I realize I've made the butt of the body too big for the size of this head. And I am debating pulling this apart down to like here, which is obviously more than half the work I've done. I also don't particularly want to get rid of the head because I think the head is cute. If I make it smaller, then maybe the interpretation will be like, oh, it's like when a rat is all bunched up. You know, it's not at its full length. It's all piled back into this pine cone. Okay, if I make it so it's also kind of standing up, kind of do that. So then, yeah, I think that'll work. I decided to do a little draft of what the creature is going to look like because I also realized, so like this is sort of where the feet are going to go. Like this is where the chest is, but then it kind of curves because I'm not doing a great job of keeping track of anything. I don't think that's a problem or anything. I think it's cute. It gives it a bit more dimension and makes it look less like a pine cone. Here we are. Head will go here. And we're about, like, it almost fits. Oh no, I just realized this is how much yarn I have left. Well, let's hope we win at Yarn Chicken. This is a yarn eater. Any texture is a yarn eater. I do have a second skein of this, and then I'm going rock climbing today near the Joanne, so I can buy more. I did end up putting feathers here, but then as soon as I like tried to fit the head, they basically all get covered. But it's probably good just to have that, just in case anything shows through. I'm going to stuff the body. The body is very stiff even without any stuffing. I think just the texture kind of does that, but I am going to stuff it, and then I'll stuff the neck a little bit more. That's just the tail of the yarn, and then I'll use this tail to sew them together. Here is the Figgle's ears. I used some nice gray yarn, and then I wanted to use the same yarn for their like hand arm things, but I think the only gray I have is this, which is kind of thick and big, which isn't good for making delicate little mouse paws. I tried a couple things. I tried like making it in a round and then like using the body yarn. I thought I'd experiment with like a little puff stitch and that just looked weird. Hello, so it's been a little over a week. The good news is I have been crocheting a ton. The bad news is I've been crocheting a cardigan instead of working on the Figgle. I just got really stuck with its hands, arms, feet situation. I tried a bunch of little things and it didn't work. And then I had my family in town to celebrate my birthday. I'm 30 now. Yay. My plan for the hand arm situation is to make a little nub hand for the Figgle out of the gray that I used for its ears and then resume the rest of the arm in that yellow, purple, black, very swirly yarn, which luckily I do have another skein of because otherwise I would be out and I am not sure what I would do because I did stop at Joann's again to get more of this yarn for my cardigan and I could not find the purple, yellow, black yarn. So I'm really glad that I got 2 skeins the first time. Anyway, I saw this little dragon plushie that I crocheted for a friend of mine from a pattern from this book. And just looking at it made me go, oh, those arms that the dragon has would be perfect for the Figgle. So the plan is to follow the pattern from this book and I'll go from the gray that I'm using for the like skin tone to this funky yarn here. And I'll probably do a feather texture, at least on the like transition part, as much as, you know, I hate doing texture lately. I just think giving that illusion of like, oh, these are the feathers growing out of the skin and covering up the skin, I think that'll make me happy. So why do I create such complicated creatures? I guess I didn't know I would be crocheting them when I came up with them in 2016, but still. This is what I created. Does it kind of look like a very stereotypical mariachi band sleeve? Maybe. Okay, looking at it, I think the hand is too big. I have been using this hook, but I think I'm going to switch my G hook to try to create an arm. Here's what I got now. I think it's okay. I'm going to try making a similar second one, and then because Figgles, as we all know, eat human hair, I will fluff up some yarn to put between its hands for it to be eating. I am so happy that this turned out. I got the legs pretty sturdy. This guy stands up, which makes me really happy. I have to put some, you know, fluffy yarn hair in his hands. And my question is, Should I make it blue because I have blue hair? Now we're going to move on to volume 2, and we're going to make the sea monster from the 3rd story in the collection. Something invisible appeared out of the water, and Bridget gasped. It was a little sea monster. 2 tall eye stalks with tiny blinking eyes, a small squishy body, and lots of tentacles. Bridget buys the sea monster an ice cream cone, and the shopkeeper handed over the cone, and the little monster took it in both its tentacles. Its mouth, a giant hole full of teeth, opened right under its eye stalks, and it ate the cone in one gulp. Oh, I love what I come up with. So I'm going to take inspiration from the sea monster on the back of the book, but with a little more of Boo from Monsters Inc.'s fake monster body costume that they did. So I'm gonna start by making some eyeballs out of this white yarn. Then I'll go upstairs and pick what I'm going to make the rest of the body, and I'm not doing scales. I just did all the feathers that kind of look like scales for the Figgle. I'm not doing that again. So I want to make sure that I don't end up with the alien being like huge. So I think this is why as I'm going to go with just 3 rounds out. So I did 6, 12, 18. I'm going to do maybe 2 more rounds of 18 just to get a ball shape going, and then I'll just decrease down and then make a second one. I think it's too big already because on the outside of the eye, I'm going to do like eyelids, which is going to make it bigger. So I think instead of going up to 18, I have to go to 12. It's part of design. Okay, I think that is a good height for the eyeball. And now I'm going to do decreases, and I'm actually going to bring you closer so you can get a better view and see it happening. Okay, so bear with me, this is really small, but how I do a decrease, and I learned this from Complicated Knots, but also other, crocheting people on the internet. I take my hook, I put it through the outer loop of this first stitch, and then sort of twist it around to get through the next outer loop. And then I pull through the 2 loops, and then I grab here and pull through. So it's creating 1 single crochet over place of 2 single crochets on the bottom. That's how I think about it. And then I do that all the way around until I reach this stitch marker again. I will eventually put in a safety eye here or something. I just want to have both eyeballs and the eyelids made before I start making decisions on that. I think that eyes are the most important thing when making like living creature plushes sort of things. It's what really gives them their character. So yeah, I want to be able to like fully see the full picture before I do that. I redid my yarn stash. Can see things a bit easier now. Oh, this yarn is super beautiful and does look like the ocean, but this is not cheap yarn. This was very expensive, so not that. Could just go with a nice green. Got this like half off, I think, from Michael's. Oh no, we gotta use this. Look at this. I can't remember buying this, but this is gorgeous. That's perfect sea monster vibes. I'm just thinking right now about, in Monsters Inc., right? Boo's costume. She has like the arm tentacles are a different color. I'm pretty sure I bought this to make a bloopy from Zelda, but I think this will work for arms. No matter how many skeins of yarn I work with, I still have trouble finding the tail. It was right there the whole time. So my plan for the eyelids, I'm essentially going to do, I think, 2 halves of one of the eyeballs. What do you think of that? It's pretty good, but it definitely needs to be filled in along here. But I do think I'm good with the eye. I am going to fasten this and then stuff it and tie up the ending. I went around adding another 6 stitches equally, so now we're at 24. This fits a lot better around the eyeball. I've tried the eyeball with 2 of the bigger lids and it's not working. So then I tried with 1 big lid and 1 small lid. And I think given what I already have, this is as good as I'm going to get. Okay, I'm actually really happy with them and I think they are really cute. Now I have to crochet eye stalks. I'm going to make them pretty small. I think that's pretty good for the size of the eye. I made a rectangle. Whoop! Here's my current plan. This is going to be the top of the head. I'm going to make a bunch of little teeth for the gaping mouth, and then sew that in here with some stuffing behind it, and hopefully this will curl down enough that you won't see the teeth if it's pressed against the rest of the body. Last night I finished the bottom of the body of the sea monster. Here it is. I purposely made the bottom more flat. My ideas were that the tentacles could sort of come out from down here, and then like little arm ones on top. Pulled out the white yarn again. I think I'm just gonna do like a string of teeth, like lights on a Christmas tree, because I just want it to be so many teeth. So here's a string of teeth. I'm going to sew them into the top of the mouth. I think it's clear enough that those are teeth, right? Here is the adorable body and head of the sea monster. And if you remember, when he goes to eat his ice cream, he opens his head, there's a ton of teeth. Ah! So we have the sea monster. I've decided she's a girl for some reason, probably because she looks a lot like Boo from Monsters, Inc. And I'm pretty happy with her tentacle arms. I did give her little sleeves to like cover the join. It looked too weird without it. I should have filmed it, but it's very early in the morning for me. I'm super happy with her so far. I envision giving her kind of an octopus bottom just to make her a little less like Boo from Monsters, Inc. and a little more straight up sea monster-y. Looking real cute. And also like she would devour all the ice cream cones in the world. I did magic circle, round of 6, increases all around to get to 12, and then we are here. I did the normal pattern of single crochet, increase, single crochet, increase, but you can kind of tell it's kind of turning into a hexagon, and that's because in between the 2 single crochets for the increase, I did a single chain. And I'm kind of trying to mimic how granny squares, or in this case, granny hexagons, do corners. And my idea is that the corner is just going to get more dramatic for the like octopus-inspired bottom of the sea monster. Okay, I forgot to document most of the leg making process. So here's the finished sea monster. If I ever remade this to try to make it into like a pattern, I might add like suckers to the bottom, to the arms. But for right now, I'm super happy with how this turned out. We have made it to volume 4 in terms of the creatures. This is a little bit of a spoiler. There's a creature called a storm owl. This is a fun, but a bit of a strange book. It's basically set up like a D&D trip, but it's a road trip because the series is like modern fantasy. Anyway, okay, the storm owl. The feathers were black and gray, its face and breast were feathered green, and its wings had streaks of orange and brown in them like jagged lightning. The bird's claws were impressively large and its sky blue eyes huge. I have kind of tried to use black yarn before, and it's just incredibly difficult to see where your hook needs to go. My plan today is to go to a little tea cafe that I really love and to crochet there just to get out of the house a little bit. Let's do black for the base, green for the accent colors, and then orange for when I get to the wings. And I have my dark gray yarn downstairs, so I'll also put that in the bag to go with me. Here is what I have for the storm owl so far. I decided to just leave the green in like the chest area. At least that's what I think it is. I'm gonna make like gray outer circles for the eyes, and then I'll do blue, and then I'll put the safety eyes in the middle here, and that's what I'm going to do now before the bottom gets any smaller and it'll be impossible to get stuff in there. Also, this is actually going to be the inside. It's where the knot is and all this extra tails from trying to do more perfect continuations are. So this is going inside out. So I'm leaving the bottom open for that as well. Okay, this looks way too big. No, it's way too big for the little owl body. I'm going to size down my crochet hook and do it over again, I think. It's like I was worried about. I covered up all of the green between the beak and the eyes. I also didn't like the beak with the pattern that I was using. It was very confusing and didn't make any sense. So I of course ended up going to a complicated knots video and used a slight variation on the beak that she has in her design. Thank you, Complicated Knots, for that. Before I do anything else, I think I'm going to take some of the green that's like supposed to be the accent color and just embroider some like V's essentially, like tracing the, you know, natural dips that we have because of the crochet, just to sort of mimic those green feathers poking through that are described in the book and what I picture in my head. I absolutely love that now. So cute. I also had the realization, it's been a while, I should have reread her size, but she might be to scale for her book depiction, so think about that when you see how cute she is. In order to try to come up with the different texture of the wings, the like a little bit more streakiness that I picture these orange feathers, I thought I would use a bigger hook and just use both yarns. I thought I would do this. And if you're thinking that looks very Halloween-y, yeah, I think you're right about that. I think instead of the black and orange, I'll do the gray and orange for now, and then maybe swap to the black for the end. Okay, yeah, no, I hate this. I'm gonna go grab my smaller hook, and I think I'm just gonna do a normal sort of crocheting thing, but maybe I will switch between colors so it looks a bit more speckled. Here's the wing. Here's how it will look on her, and I think I will do what Complicated Knots does and add a little ruffle to the back of the wing there. I think it'll look cute. It's extremely chaotic on the back, a lot of dropping and pulling the yarn along. Probably not the best way to do something like this, but it's the first time I'm doing it, and I think it looks okay. We've got both wings. I think all that's left to make is her feet. This little foot might be my favorite thing. The original pattern does not call for a magic circle, but I am very happy to use magic circles, so I did. It's a slip stitch and a half double crochet into a chain of 3 for each toe. It is so cute, and like because it's big, right? It goes like under the owl, and like I think it's actually going to provide some amount of like balance and weight. And she's done! I think she's super cute and matches her book description pretty well. Since Shelby is from volume 3, we have all 4 creatures crocheted. Let's see the reveal.